Hey, welcome to True-Moto-Resto, and today we're going to take on the task of repairing the fuel tank. And hopefully I can do it without blowing myself up. I have no idea if this is going to do anything or not, but I'm doing it anyway. Alright, so today I'm going to see if I can fix these pinholes in the tank. And so I stuck a vacuum cleaner on here for forever. I had the hose way down inside here. The cap has been off this for quite a long time. And I actually don't smell anything in there. There's absolutely zero fuel smell in there. But I think I may still steam it anyway, because I got to be safe. I don't want to blow myself up. And then after I've steamed it, I might actually put my little butane torch on the end of a long pole and just kind of wave it over here just to make sure nothing kind of ignites or flashes or whatever. Now, I don't think by using a hot soldering iron on there that it's gonna ignite anything, but why take the chance? For the sake of restoring a fuel tank, I don't want to blow my own head off, so that's not gonna be good if that happens. So this is the soldering iron that my buddy lent me. It's absolutely massive, so it puts out a whole whack of heat. You can compare it to the little one that I use for my plastic welding, and there's just simply no comparison. There's no way that something like this, just your regular electronics type of welding, soldering iron, is going to do anywhere near what this monster is going to do. So that's the one I'm going to use. I'm going to use flux-free solder, just solid core solder. I am going to use some flux paste, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'll show you what I'm doing along the way. And fingers crossed this works. Okay, so the next step I'm taking for safety here is I'm gonna steam the tank. So I think the idea behind this is, I'm no expert on this, but this is what I've seen done. This is what I hear is the reason. I guess gasoline vapors are heavier than air, so even when you've got the cap off, there's a tendency for the gasoline vapor to sit in the tank and not come out of the top. Whereas if you have put steam in, it will displace that gasoline vapor. Although, as I said, I don't smell anything in there. The same principle, I guess, they used to do years ago, where you can, or maybe some people still do, where you could hook up a hose to the tailpipe of your car or your truck, stick it in a fuel tank, and the same sort of idea. It's basically there to displace whatever you're putting in is heavier than the gas that's already in there, and then the fuel vapor comes out. So here's what I have in place. This is a Home Depot wallpaper steamer. Again, I stole this from my wife. She, not that she uses it for wallpaper, but we actually, sometimes we steam the hay for our horses. We have one horse who has like a asthma thing going on, so we sometimes steam the hay, and so this is normally attached to a steaming bin. However, today it's attached to my gas tank, so I'm going to leave that steaming away. It hasn't actually really heated up enough yet to start doing anything, but it'll do that for at least an hour. And I've got it in an old wash tub so that any of the vapors that kind of pool in the bottom and condense can kind of drip out of the fuel line attachments underneath there. And then once I've done all that, I'll vacuum it all out with my pump, make sure all the moisture's out of there, and then we'll get on to actually cleaning the repair area with muriatic acid and neutralizing it and doing all of that kind of good stuff. So okay, so I've steamed the tank for an hour, and now I'm a little bit upset that all of this shite that would have been probably around the filler neck on the inside has now dripped down and caused this grotesque black goo
or residue or something in what was a previously spotless tank. So now that means I'm going to have to use some other product to get that crap out of there. I'm not happy about that. Okay, so I've got my mask on, so it might be a bit difficult to hear me because I don't want to breathe any of this muriatic acid. And I use my camera just to make sure I'm kind of located, and I kind of bang the camera down on the side here so I know that I'm heading into the right area. And I have a plastic tube, which is where I'm going to introduce the muriatic acid, and it's taped onto my my rigid camera, or my flexible camera scope there. And so now I'm going to attach the syringe with the muriatic acid, and then we'll see how it goes from there. I'm expecting to see the acid starting to come out of the hole in the side of the tank. I'm just going to put a little bit more in there. I don't want to put too much in because the more I put in, the more I have to neutralize. But they're really nasty, so rubber gloves, a mask are a must. Okay, that's all I'm putting in. I just probably put in about, this is probably like a total of about 10-15 cc's, no more. See, all that stuff is kind of starting to drip out of the hole now, kind of a yellowish color. Kind of hard for me to get camera in here, but next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to start to help it along a little bit here with this pick. Let's see. There you can see the muriatic acid is now dripping out of the problem area on the tank into my bowl. And once that's finished dripping, I'm going to introduce the neutralizer, which is basically baking soda and water. And that'll neutralize the acid that's left, anything residue in the tank, as well as whatever drips out will start to neutralize the stuff that's in the bowl. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I hate this stuff. I hate it because of the fact that it's just so, I don't know, I'll say dangerous or hazardous or whatever to work with. I always store it in the bag. I always keep it closed, and I never ever leave it in the shop. I always leave it in the barn where it's very ventilated, because the vapors will basically rust anything and everything. So you don't want to leave this stuff laying around uncovered, leaking or any of that kind of thing. This stuff is really bad. But it does do a pretty aggressive job at rust control. There you can see this is what happens when you put the neutralizer in. It just kind of fizzes up. This is more of the baking soda and water neutralizing. So I'm going to keep doing this for a while until it stops fizzing. Now I've got alcohol inside there, that's why it's all wet. And what I'm trying to do is just make sure I'm getting all the residual water out of there. So I'm also going to be starting to heat it with the heat gun to boil anything off that's in there and dry it all out. Next stage is I've just cleaned all the metal off with my mini grinder, and now I'm going to clean out the edges of all of these holes, so make sure there's no residual rust here. So. After further probing, we have 4, 6, 8, 9
pinholes there. So anything looked like it was questionable, I gave it a little bit of a push with this kind of this diamond grind tip, and it went right through. So a bit more cleaning to do. Okay, the last thing I just did here was I just used this pick, and I've been forcing flux in through these holes, and then heating it with the heat gun and having it kind of get sucked inside, because my objective is to try to get the flux to go inside so that the solder will also wick inside. I'd like it to be sealed, almost like sandwich the metal with solder on the inside and the outside. I did attach my my little brush here to I used my siphon tube there, attached it to that, and I moved it inside and tried to stuff some flux down in there, but that was, I'll say, only marginally successful, so that's why I resorted to try to get it through the holes. So I think we're now just about ready to try the soldering irons. Okay, so waiting for the soldering iron to heat up. So this is this giant son of a gun right here. I've cleaned the tip, the section I'm going to use, with a file. My buddy who I borrowed this from suggested that I do so. So that's what I've done. I'm going to use this section right here. And then the idea being that I'm going to use the soldering iron to heat up the metal, and then hopefully the metal will melt the solder. What I don't want to do is just to melt the solder on the iron and drip solder onto cold metal, because I guess that's what you call cold solder, and it doesn't really adhere very well. So that's the objective, and we'll see how it goes. I do need to dimple this area to recess it a little bit, so I'm going to do that now. The solder has a place to kind of seat. Apply the solder again, the flux, I'll apply the flux again, get my terminology right. So I think I'm gonna have to turn the tank onto its side. Everything is just kind of dripping off a little too much here. It was sealing over, but it's not really penetrating the way I need it to, so. And my problem was that it was just kind of dripping through the holes, which I guess up to a point is okay if it's actually going inside the tank, helping to seal. So there's how we've ended up with it. So obviously that has to get kind of sanded down now, like a little grinder or something of that sort. And then I'm going to have to plug these holes underneath and test to make sure that I don't have any sort of leakage of any sort. Okay, see if I can get some of this excess solder off here without going all the way through. All right, so there we go. Looks like I have sufficient coverage in there. I've kind of ground off any of the higher areas. It looks like it did kind of suck it down in there in a number of spots where the major holes were, but I do have, I think, plenty of solder on the surface as well. So now I have to pour some more stuff inside the tank. I'll probably use alcohol just to see if anything leaks out. So I'm going to plug those holes on the underside, and then we'll do a bit of a leak test. All right, so there is what I believe to be the final repair. The only thing I'm a little concerned about are there's a couple of little black dots right there. I see. As I look through the camera lens, I might have to poke at those and see if I need to solder those too. So yep, sure enough, I poked at those tiny little specks because I ground it down a little more as I was cleaning up, and it looks like I've got another couple of spots there. So I'm glad I found that now. So I fixed the other two little holes that were here, and as I was grinding, I just saw a little tiny black speck on the bottom here, on this bottom seam, and I was able to push the hook through. So I've just kind of pushed that through. I've cleaned it, and then I've got a little. It looks a bit dark there right now, as there's some solder in there. And now I've dimpled it, so now I'm going to have to solder that bit up as well. Boy, my confidence that this is going to work is starting to wane. I really don't want to have to put a tank sealer in this, or a liner, I should say. Don't like those. All right, I think I got it. So you can see the last little bit I did right there at the tip of my finger. And so far, I have not, I mean, it didn't even leak before, even with that little pinhole there, but I think those are the kinds of leaks, obviously, that probably takes days for that kind of stuff to show up. But so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some general rust cleaner inside the tank, get that cleaned out, and then I'll rinse it and then dry it. And before it flash rusts or anything like that again, I will put some WD-40 in there. So I put some metal rescue in the tank, and just to see if it'll get rid of that black crap that's in there from steaming it. It's not like a loose black stuff, it's just they turn the metal. When I steamed it, it turned the metal black for some reason, if you can see it. There you go. And before I did that, it was like just beautiful shiny metal. And now it's got this nasty black color to it, which is really, there you go, you can kind of see it now. There, it's like a grayish black wherever the steam was dripping and running down. It's not rust, it's just the result of the steaming, so I'm quite upset about that. I think my repair worked good with my solder, but now I'm dealing with this grayish stain in the bottom of the tank, which I've got the metal rescue. I'm going to run this for a few hours and see if that washes it off. And the other thing that'll do is it'll help me ensure that this beautiful solder repair is not leaking. I think it's going to be good. So I think that'll do it for this video. We're going to keep this one short. So thanks very much for watching. If you have any comments, maybe if you know what that grayish black staining is from the steaming, let me know in the comments below. I've never come across it. It doesn't look like flash rust. No idea what it is. Anyway, thanks very much. Appreciate it. Please subscribe. And we're going to get to the paint booth probably in about another week. I've got a whole raft of body work here that has to get sanded and primed and ready to go. And I just picked up the paint today. It's all in the box there. So stay tuned, there's more to come.